Start this. This book was written out of spite, not strategy, not ambition, not some master plan to create a spark or a movement. In 2018, this hoe got roaches in her crib came from a very specific place: frustration with the urban fiction industry nonsense, creative disrespect, and a growing sense that certain conversations in the urban fiction were happening behind closed doors instead of on the page. I did not sit down intending to make something timeless, polished, or even particularly thoughtful. I sat down irritated. The title was provocative on purpose. The tone was aggressive on purpose. The excessive was the point. At the time, it felt easier to exaggerate the absurdity than to explain it. What was meant to be a jab, a moment of catharsis, a personal laugh into something far bigger than I ever anticipated. I never expected this book to take off the way it did. I never expected it to articulate the way it did, and I certainly never expected it to follow me the way it has. This book contains harsh language, crude language that does not ask for comfort or approval with distance and maturity. I can acknowledge that some of it is a lot. Some of it is excessive. Some of it reflects a younger version of myself who was more interested in making noise than in making nuance. I'm aware that some readers may interpret this book as a glimpse into my mind and come away believing that I harbor disdain for black people, particularly black women living in disenfranchised communities. That is not true. It has never been true. If anything, the anger that has fueled this book was born from proximity, familiarity, and and, and lived observation, not contempt. But intent does not erase impact. As I've grown as a writer and as a person, rereading this work has made that clear to me. This book captures a moment, a mindset, a raw, unfiltered snapshot where my writing was at that time. It does not represent where it ultimately went. My work later reflects evolution, more control, more clarity, more purpose. While the intensity remains, the approach has changed. I do not want you reading this book assuming that every page reflects my current voice or my current worldview. This story exists as it was written, and it is out in the world. It has its own life now, and all I ask is that you read it with context. Understand when it was written, understand why it was written, and understand that readers, like people, are allowed to grow beyond their earliest and loudest works. This book may not be polite, it may not be gentle, but it is honest about where it came from, and sometimes that honesty matters just as much as refinement. Morning, and welcome back to CrabaGator. I'm CrabaGator. That was the very first part of this Hoe Got Roaches in Our Crib. I'm reading this for the 30 subscriber special. I'm gonna make another I'm gonna make another achievement mark, and when we reach it, I'll read chapter 2 of this Hoe Got Roaches in Our Crib. I just want you guys to know moving forward the context of this book that I'm reading. I do want to say I will not be saying the N word in this book. I know you guys are upset, but I will not. No, no. Furthermore, all these fucking roaches and shit. Oh God, motherfucking damn it! Frekisha murderous gaze was laser focused into five black brownish roaches. They range in sizes. Ugh! And a bitch ain't got time for this shit today. I'm hungry and a bitch need to get her pussy ate. The agitated Section 8 Strag continued to nag. The biggest roach, Daddy Roach Sir, embarked on a dangerous journey to lead his family to a mecca of stale food. His wings lightly flapped. He used his long, wise antennas to lead his loyal wife of 32 days, their well trained teenage sons, and their precious baby daughter towards the distant smell of decaying dominoes, pepperoni, and sauceless pizza crust hiding away in a dark corner of Fred Keisha's messy apartment living room. Every third Friday of a month, when the food stamps hit her EBT card, Fredkeisha usually treated her three kids to greasy pizza, saucy buffalo wings, and cinnamon sticks. The pizza fiesta was sort of like a food stamp renewal day of celebration. Truth be told, the pizza was another way to get the motherfucking kids temporarily off her flabby, tatted back. Fred Keisha hated to spend her weekends watching her badass kids, especially when she needed to get ate out and digged down by some local chi-rag savage. Only God knows why she's so annoyed watching them. Ain't like a bitch had a job where her weekends were invulnerable, precious relief from hard work week. Every day was a fucking weekend for this hoe. Anyways, this particular crust daddy roach Sir Scanted has been nested away for weeks, shit, probably months, out of the purview of other vermin living in the grimy apartment. Had Frekisha's mama taught her the importance of admiring cleanliness as a virtue, the months-old crust would not have been a non-issue. Perhaps then Frekisha would not have been staring down a critter family peacefully pilgrimaging along the hallway dusty white cracking baseboards. I swear to God, these motherfucking kids keeping my house nasty as shit. They keep getting on my last damn nerves and I got shit to do today. They really gonna make me go off on their motherfucking asses. Frekisha gripped under her dry morning blunt infused breath. Frankisha, better known as Momo in the streets, positioned herself in close proximity to the migrant roach family. A bitch was ready to go to war against the critter enemies invading her living room. Her eyes turned to homicidal slits, and a butterfly of anxiety flapped its wings in her glowing, empty stomach. Fredkeisha knew roaches were hard to motherfucking kill. If she was going to be victorious in offering this sneaky fat fuck roach and his family, she's gonna need to smite hard so she could crush their organs, killing them in an instant. Fredkeisha raised her right foot, leaned down, and then pulled off her Walmart black flip-flop, now armed and dangerous with the $2.99 plastic flip-flop in her hand. She slowly and carefully hovered her weapon of choice over Daddy Sir Roach. His long antennas waved side to side, unaware of Fredkeisha's looming death plot. Raised in Chicago's notorious Cabaret Green housing project, high rises until the age of 20, Fredkeisha had no trace of fear for roaches in her body, no fear of white mice, no fear of daddy long leg spiders, not even a trace of fear for Newgane brown rats, which were once a major problem in Chicago's slums. Ducking and dodging at the sound of rapid gunfire was the most valuable tool any young Gifa growing up in Chicago's fucked up and ultra-violent housing projects had to learn quickly. And then the next valuable housing project survival skill, young Gifas had to acquire the art of killing roaches. Fear straight bullets aside, any child, regardless of social economic status, starts off with the innate fear of insects, bugs, and other creepy, monstrous creatures. Nonetheless, young Project Gifas are taught to cultivate Japanese a samurai warrior-like fearlessness when it comes to living with roaches. Why? There's a 99.999% chance that these kids are going to be roommates with bugs until they left their piss-smelling public housing residence. Therefore, from a tender age, a young Camerooni kid got initiated into a gang of hardened roach murderers, learning how to gangbang on those motherfuckers when they enroach their set, living room, bedroom, kitchen, etc. So with all being said, you already know a ghetto bitch like Fred Keisha was certified roach hitter. Concentrate, bitch. You got this. Fred Keisha thought to herself, kill these fucking geefas. Smack! Roach Sir went on to be with the Lord. The front of his obituary read, "Home going celebration for the late Daddy Roach Sir. Sunrise, May 2018. Sunset, June 2018. Reverend Dr. Lucius Roachson in the third presiding. Mama Roach, shocked and grieving, tried to flee for cover. Her three kids trailed her, but the lethal Fredkeisha Ho obviously wasn't going to let them get away. Hey, they had to motherfucking die too and be buried next to their daddy. Where the fuck were y'all going, huh? Fredkeisha shrieked with retribution colored in her vicious words. Smack! 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 Gruesome, genocidal sight. An entire family wiped out, but this was just the beginning of a growing problem. Daddy Roacher had 1,861 brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, uncles, aunts, and other relatives lurking in the cut, ready to get that pizza crust, and discarded trash scattered throughout the clustered and disgusting apartment. An unclouded Saturday morning, the first weekend in June, Chicago's South Side, the neighborhood, the infamous Inglewood, a 10-unit apartment building owned by Mr. Nathaniel Nate Garrison, a retired 67-year-old postal worker, stood on the corner of 63rd Street and Halston Avenue. 12 years ago, after giving the United States Postal Service 30 hard, sweaty years of carrier service, the Cheetown Bronzeville native decided to dab into his real estate, per the advice of his younger brother Louis. The younger brother had owned some low-income rental properties throughout the predominantly black south and west sides of the city, and Big Bro Nate wanted to get a slice of the apparent rich and decadent rental property income pie. Nate was hesitant at first, as he was more fiscally conservative sibling and didn't want to fuck up his retirement coins. Nate, divorced now for nearly 10 years, father 4 kids, and grandfather to 9, eventually caved in and gave rental property investing a shot. Flash forward a decade and 2 years later, it turned out that buying an apartment building in the heart of the gradually depopulated Inglewood ghetto and filling it with Section 8 voucher recipients was a guaranteed government subsidized gold mine. Good ass passive income that diversified his diverse retirement funds. Nate's 65,657 yearly pension, untapped 401k, 1,300 monthly social security check, and rental property income afforded him the opportunity to take his quarterly trips to the Dominican Republic. There, he sipped on margaritas and dined on young chocolate prostitute pussy he often procured from Punta Canal's white sand beaches. His penchant for foreign coochie explained his lack of addressing the growing issues plagued the apartment building that housed roughly 23 tenants. Nate was very hands off when it came to his property management, oftentimes paying Glenn, his functional crackhead ex brother in law, to do spotty, erratic building maintenance. The decade of ownership devolved Nate into a prototypical Chicago slumlord. This is the exact reason why, on this beautiful and sunny Saturday morning, Miss Frekeisha Pierce, a tenant who had been in the building now for some 3 years, was manifestly heated, and not by the sun, but by the sight of the Roach family she just massacred with no remorse. This was a problem from time to time. She tried to get Mr. Garrison to fix. She contacted him every so often through email or phone call. Some days later, her toothless crackhead Glenn will arrive, chit chat, spray the house, lay down some traps, and take off, not to be seen or heard from for months. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, the former Cabrini Green resident just grew immune to the infestation. Roaches were just roaches, a minor nuance, really. Not a problem. She felt compelled to a bitch and complained to the city of Chicago's housing authority in a letter or phone call. Crazy thing was, CHA had a dedicated hotline she could easily dial to and address the pest issue. Even crazier, Fred Keisha was a Section 8 voucher holder, and these types of issues will get any landlord in big trouble motherfucking time. So much Nate's despondent slumlord ass could end up getting banned from the Section 8 program and could face serious fines. And not just fines from federal government, but even the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. However, the unemployed and welfare system abusing Frekeisha didn't want to rock the boat and snitch on Mr. Garrison. Why? She was consistently late, paying her percentage of the rent that Section 8 didn't cover to Mr. Garrison. Nevertheless, unlike the landlords, he didn't give a fuck so long as he was getting that steady check from the government. Rather than clean up the crushed roach corpses smeared onto the bottom of the wall and the baseboard, the uneasy and rushed single mother of three fiercely made her way back into the kitchen in search of her half-smoked peach-flavored Philly blunt. Fredkeisha picked the blunt off of one of her dirty kitchen countertops and wedged it in between her crusty, plump, purple lips. She whisked out a lighter from pocket and lit the blunt up. It took 3 long puffs, exhaled, waited a few moments to let the weed calm her jittery nerves. The THC high overtook her portly body. Fredkeisha then opened the palm of her left hand and then hawked up the biggest ball of gooey froth spit in her palm. She put the lit end of the blunt out and into a vicious pool of saliva and then stuffed it into her pocket for later. Nasty bitch. Her breath a bit tart. Fredkeisha now needed the refreshing taste of menthol in her mouth. Why? She didn't just go brush her teeth instead? Well, she was gonna handle that later when she went to go take a shower. The veteran roach assassin rummaging through a drawer near the filthy, crowded countertops and pulled out her pack of already opened Newports. Fuck! She forgot she was already on her last square, and quickly remembered she had plenty of partly smoked cigs resting in the ashtray with other buds, an almost overflowing mount of ash in the middle. The half smoked square was cooling the fuck out like it was relaxing in a crowded Carnival Cruise jacuzzi. Fredkeisha, slowly getting angry again, dashed into the semi-smoky living room, hastily located the ashtray sitting on top of a brown coffee table. Once Miss Pierce spotted the cigarette she smoked last night. She leaned down and pulled it out of a crowded ashtray and slapped it in between her crackling dark velvet lips. She lit it up with a blue Bic lighter in her hand. She took as many puffs as she could to finish the cigarette. Once the cigarette was no longer smokable, she put it out. She put it out in the ashtray. She blew out a steady steam of smoke from her nostrils like a medieval dragon. With a tail of lingering Newport smoke following her, Fredkeisha marched through the dusty, smoky, and dimly lit hallway of her apartment. Her her heavy feet thumped on the filthy beige carpet as another roach ran for its life out of Fredkeisha's sight. Lucky motherfucker. He better thank the roach lord. Disregarding the chit chat and laughs she heard coming from her two sons' bedroom, Fredkeisha stormed her way towards her youngest child's bedroom. She pulled out her cell phone from her back pocket, glanced down in her hand, and saw 9:43 a.m. splattered across the partly cracked iPhone screen. The phone's neon pink cover correct encrusted with sequins and glitter. Eventually, he didn't do shit to protect the screen from cracking some months ago. She had dropped it at a Hooters out in suburban Lansing while she was on a date with some low-key dope boy. The agitated mother bit her lip. Fredkeisha shook her head out of frustration of feeling like time wasn't on her side anymore. Grumbling, she slipped the phone back into her back pocket. Waves of frustration once again swept over her. She was mad as fuck that she just wasted 4 minutes killing some roaches without even bothering to knock. She barged into her daughter's room. Her daughter was sitting on the floor, Indian style, using a couple of off-brand broken crayons to doodle in some cheap dollar store coloring book. The young girl quickly looked up at her obviously he angered guardian. The young daughter knew her mother was livid, as her body language projected. Little girl, I'm gonna whoop your ass! Fredkeisha, with her eyes now wide open in rage, gawked her young daughter straight to her unassuming juvenile brown doe eyes. Maya, what the fuck are you doing? The young girl, Maya, was frozen and silent for a moment before she carefully answered, Coloring, 'cause I'm done cleaning. Fredkeisha looked around looked around with her yellow face scrunched up. Her vicious eyes widened with more frustration as she saw a pair of pink socks on the floor. You ain't done yet? Your room still look like a mess! Fred Keisha roared. They continued to shout, Listen, you better hurry up and clean my shit up, little hoe, in 2 seconds. I'm finna smack the fuck out your ugly ass. Fred Keisha then screamed out a list of things she thought Maya still needed to tidy up before she was scheduled to go over to her grandmother's house for the rest of the weekend. Okay, Maya responded once. Fredkeisha gave her another 4 chores she needed to complete. Fredkeisha then growled at her 6-year-old Maya. Damn! You know you just like your stupid ass, hard-headed ass daddy. That's why he locked the fuck up now. As the mother kept screaming threats of violence towards her now terrified daughter, Maya jumped up from the floor and jump-started her cleaning. Poor Maya, trembling at the sound of her mother's hostile tone, nippily as she tried her best to finish tidying up her room, the smallest in the entire apartment. It was actually not a bedroom, rather a large utility closet that Fred Keisha converted into a bedroom. Here was the kicker: Maya's room was in actuality the cleanest in the entire 3 bedroom apartment, aside from her mother. Maya also lived with her 2 older half brothers. Fred Keisha stood by Maya's bedroom door, now holding her arms by her crusty blackened elbows. She rapidly tapped her foot against the beige carpet floor, obviously in much need of a vacuum. Hell, truth be told, it needed to be professionally cleaned. Regardless of the trillions of THC molecules running a marathon within Fred Keisha's blood vessels, Fred Keisha's anger was gradually explosive, especially with Maya. Fred Keisha had places to go, people to see, and ultimately some dicks to suck later tonight if her plans went smoothly. Fred Keisha, 34, once a vixen back in her day, was now a tired ass looking hoe who stood about 5'5" and weighed a solid 213 pounds. She thought she was around 175, but she hadn't been to the general Dr. Paris in a while. Her doctor was down the block at a free women's health clinic, but Keisha only made a visit when she had a bad yeast infection, STI, or when she get a long-lasting turbulent case of bacteria vaginosis. Known once for her small waist, Keisha was now in possession of a plump, undefined midriff. Remnants of what was once a thick ass now resembled 2 steroid-injected brown potato lumps together. A set of double D cups, drooping titties hanging from her chest with no bra on. It was visible from the t-shirt covering her chest that she had both nipples pierced. The biggest black satin bonnet cap crowned Fred Keisha's head this morning, matching a slightly torn up black wife beater wrapped around her chest and torso. A big Celtic cross tattoo was stitched into her unshaven right arm. A spread of angel wings was tatted across her upper chest. Some faded blue denim Bermuda shorts she had bought some years ago from the Rainbow store, not too far away, tightly snug her cellulite ridden legs. Under the sour-smelling bonnet were 7 cornrows braided into the ratchet mother's skull. Yesterday, Maya's disability check. Fred Keisha had the girl diagnosed with ADHD to get them Social Security federal government coins came in the mail. Rather use the fund towards good use like tutoring or after school care. A bitch is about to go get her hair, nails, and feet done. Tonight was the night Fred Keisha swore up and down she was gonna snag her a baller at Dash, some upscale black nightclub in the South Loop. Paulette, Fred Keisha's hairdresser, really just her bestie who she knew how to do hair, had this bomb ass ultra long middle part lace front that she was gonna glue on this bitch's head and have her ass looking like she was straight from Bangladesh or some shit. With time slipping away and the feeling of anxiety giving her slight migraine, Fredkeisha temporarily turned her attention away from Maya and then shot her head into the room across the hall. Hey! Hey!
Manny, Zamir, y'all need to hurry the fuck up and get ready in 5 minutes. Your grandma gonna be here soon, and so will Maya's. I got shit to do, and you badass kids are already fucking with my motherfucking weekend plans. Hurry the fuck up now!
Okay, Mama, the two boys barked from the other side of their bedroom door. Not saying a word, the slandered, brown-skinned daughter continued to scuttle her room, trying to figure out what else she could do to make the room look tidier. Still feeling her mother's vicious presence burn into the back of her head, Maya quickly scanned the room with her innocent eyes, looking to see if she did a good job. She felt she was done and did her best to follow her mother's irrational instructions. Since her father, Austin, was locked up and serving 2 year sentence in Cook County jail for a probation violation, Maya lived in an oppressive terror of her mother. Maya living with Fred Keisha went completely against Austin's wishes before getting locked up. He tried hard to convince a judge to hand over custody of Maya to his mother, Miss Watkins. Austin thought Fred Keisha was reckless, filthy, irresponsible, and unfit to be a parent. Was he lying though? Nevertheless, of course, this was his perception, and the courts have a different perception. So, unfortunately for Austin, the judge ended up siding with the struggling single mother. The judge didn't just stop there, though. Not only did she deny Austin's motion to hands off full custody to his mother, but she also recited his shared custody agreement with Fred Keisha and gave the abusive mother full custody, virtually eliminating his legal visitation rights. Courts would even consider court supervised by visitation, making Austin out to be a ruthless criminal. The judges even considered a protective order against the father, and it was enforced until the day he went to jail, and would remain in effect until he got out and went back to court for another hearing. Truth be told, Austin, while he was sincere, had a good heart to do right by his daughter, fucked up and didn't do his research. See, that day in court, Fred Keisha was one who ended up with truly playing her cards right. She had Jocelyn, her Section 8 caseworker, vouch for her and her motherly qualities. She had good references from the daycare she used to work at in Pullman. Austin want the judge to consider possible testimony from Maya herself. However, the judge refused. She said she couldn't truly honor testimony coming from a 5.5-year-old for two reasons. Maya was diagnosed with ADHD, so Judge Steinberg said that any negative testimony coming from a mentally challenged child couldn't be trusted. And to Maya, well, she was 5.5 at the time. An age plays a huge role in credibility of testimonies. Absolutely devastating. But this wasn't a fringe case unfamiliar to a lot of men. This was an everyday occurrence in so many family courts in America. Now, one would assume that a woman who wanted full custody of her child obviously had an unshakable and unbreakable bond with her growing daughter. But this simply and obviously wasn't the case at all between Fred Keisha and Amaya. Fred Keisha simply wanted to get her claws on the child for the sake of extracting government benefits and yearly tax write-offs, nothing else. Not Fred Keisha did do the bare minimum to provide for her daughter's basic necessities. However, she obviously showed more love and support towards her two oldest sons, Q Mammy 12 and Zymir 10. Always had the freshest and latest shit. Jordans, PlayStations, cell phones, you name it. Those two young bad Gifa boys had it. Maya, on the other hand, well, her mother would barely buy her anything. All her toys came from the dollar store. Her bitch would even buy her own daughter's toys, at least from Walmart or Five Below. While her boys stole the freshest linens, cots from the mall out in the burbs or department stores on Michigan Avenue, Maya had hand-me-downs, donated clothes, or clothes bought from Salvation Army, and that was if Fred Keisha felt like spending some extra money on the girl. So where did all this antipathy for a 6-year-old daughter come from? Before getting locked up, Austin and Fred Keisha were in an on and off turbulent relationship. Although he truly had no long-term plans to wife her, he still paraded
her around as his maid. However, as their tumultuous relationship unraveled, Austin ended up leaving Fred Keisha, and this set off a cascade of events that ultimately led to her being a deep and dangerous rift between Fred Keisha and Austin. Fred Keisha, being a bitter and spiteful ratchet bitch, made no qualms about taking her disdain for Austin out on his progeny. Twisted as it may seem, Maya was Fred Keisha's punching bag in every sense of the word. While Austin was locked up, Fred Keisha's ass whoopings, starvation, grounding, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, you name it. Fred Keisha was specialized and made it known to Maya every day. She wasn't well liked. It was sickening that a woman could birth such an innocent child into the world. And rather than taking her frustration out on the father, she turned her frustration onto her very own innocent and precious daughter, who simply just wanted to enjoy her semblance of a childhood. Tears. Ah! Maya screamed as her eyes spotted the biggest brown roach crawling on one of the walls in her bedroom. Maya instantly dashed towards the corner and had an expression of trepidation buried into her small features of her brown face. "What you screaming for, how?" Fred Keisha rasped with her screwed up face. It's a roach, Mommy!" As Fred Keisha pulled the half-smoked blunt out of her pocket and lit it up in front of the child, she huffed. "Bitch, a roach!" Rolling her eyes and shaking her head, but Fred Keisha, hearing her daughter call her Mommy, suddenly got her very inflamed. "And what did I tell you about calling me Mommy? Call me Fred Keisha, got it?" Maya jumped up again. "Yes, ma'am," and panicked, froze for a moment, still looking at her mother with full fear, but not rooted fear and respect, fear rooted in a pending ass beat. "There's a roach on the wall, Fred Keisha," Maya slowly answered, pointing at the roach, the sound of dread defining her response. Fred Keisha rolled her eyes again as she blew out a steady, heavy steam of smoke from her wide nostrils and huffed. "Really, little bitch? That's just a damn roach. Fuck you scared for, pussy hoe? Go get your shoe and kill it, now!" "But I'm scared, Fred Keisha." "Don't make me tell you again, or else," Fred Keisha interrupted, instantly cutting off Maya's plea. Fred Keisha assembled deep in her room and towards her visibly shaken daughter. "Now, I said, go get your shoe and kill it, now!" Silent and quivering, a tear ran out of Maya's right eye as she looked up at her so-called mother. "I'm scared!" Without hesitation, Fred Keisha's right hand went across Maya's face. "I said kill it! In fact, go kill it with your hand! Fuck the shoe!" Not wanting to jumpstart a Saturday session of physical brutality, Maya listened to her mother's stern instructions as she fought back tears. She carefully paced herself to the wall where the roach was located. In Chicago, roaches often look like Rice Krispies with teeny legs. However, last year, after coming back from a quick getaway in Florida, Fred Keisha somehow managed to bring down some South roach eggs in her luggage back with her. When she and her few besties went down to Miami for spring, they stayed at an Airbnb, and that was where Fred Keisha believed the infestation started. She fucked up and left portly open packages of Little Debbie Nutty Bars in her suitcase, and more than likely 3 out of 5 mama roaches smelled the sweet chocolate peanut butter crisp buffet from a mile away. At least that was the story Fred Keisha told herself to justify where the big ass non-local roaches originated. Who knows if that was the truth, but Fred Keisha refused to do anything serious about the growing roach problem in her apartment other than call up Glenn to spray. Maya, now only a foot away from the roach, climbed on her bed and cautiously moved her hand closer to the wall. "Girl, if you don't kill that motherfucking roach, I'm gonna kill your motherfucking ass," Fred Keisha warned with a widened, intimidatingly eyes. Maya had listened, too, because she knew her mother's words were bond, and when it came to an ass beating, the young girl, petrified, raised her hand, hovered it about an inch away from the roach. "Maya, if you don't stop fucking around and kill that roach, bitch, I swear I'm gonna go cross your nappy head." Maya trembled, couldn't do it. The roach was literally almost the size of her palm and had the thickest wings. Wings were so long and thick, the motherfucking roach was offering first class tickets to fly other critters to Dubai and shit. The roach's long antennas moved from side to side, almost as if it could detect a looming death. You better run, Forrest. You Forrest, run! But Keisha, once again, quickly spat in her hand and put a blunt out. She looked around the room and saw a Vibe magazine on the top of the dresser. Maya obviously didn't read Vibe, but Keisha got it and left it there one night when she cussed the girl out for not cleaning up the bathroom right. But Keisha quickly rolled the magazine up into a quick makeshift pipe and lunged towards the girl, and then raised the Vibe magazine in her hand and pulled back into the air, ready to go across Maya's skull. Kill it, goddammit! Smack! Maya's hand crushed the bug in her hands. The roach exterior crushed in her palm. Gut, gooey, white, yellowish roach gut slime spilled all over her. Maya would have vomited, but she had nothing in her stomach to throw up. No food was in the house other than an old loaf of bread, an expired package of off-brand Walmart deli ham, and some watery yellow mustard. But Keisha leaned in and grabbed Maya off the bed. Now go wipe your goddamn hands! Get some paper towels and clean that mess up! I'm giving your ass a minute! Keisha then swiped the magazine against the girl's back and bottom. Wasting my damn time! But Keisha continued to grumble as she made her way out the bedroom. Buzz, buzz, buzz. But Keisha's iPhone, nested in her back pocket, vibrated. She threw the magazine back onto the dresser, picked up the blunt, and put it in her mouth, then whipped out her phone. She saw a text in from Mama. I'm downstairs. Fred Keisha's mother, Evelyn, texted the ratchet matriarch agreed to babysit her grandchild this weekend. Miss Watkins, awesome mother, was miles away from picking up Maya to babysit her as well, but hadn't texted Fred Keisha's yet. Kimani! Samir! Hurry up! Yo, Grammy here! And get your shit and leave! Fred Keisha barked in front of the boys' bedrooms. Suddenly the door opened and two boys decked out in some fly gear from the Nike store hugged their mother and then flashed down the hallway out the front door. Fred Keisha smiled, feeling overcome with joy as she watched her two boys exit the house. She wasn't just joyful, she was going to have time to herself. She felt a sense of rapture and pride that her boys were growing fast, becoming young men she always envisioned, real street geefas, dope boys, just like their father. Maya, after washing her hands, made her way back into the bedroom and began to clean the roach murder scene on the wall with a water-drenched paper towel. But Keisha's disposition quickly went back to insane as she looked her daughter up and down as if she was some unknown wayward stranger. If you make any mention to your grandma of what happened today, remember, you're gonna get it when you get home. You understand me, little girl? Yes, ma'am, Maya carefully replied as she wiped the wall. When you get done, bring your motherfucking ass and your clothes back to the living room and sit there and wait for your grandmammy to come here. Don't mess with my television either. I'm gonna go take a shit, then shower. Do not come in my room for nothing. Don't run your teeny hands through my fridge either, and let your granny feed your ass. She better be in 15 more minutes. You understand me? Yes, ma'am, Maya once again responded. Good. Keisha spun on her flip-flops and strutted her way towards her bedroom. The sound of her flip-flops popping filled the hallway. That was chapter 1 of This Hoe Has Roaches in Her Crib. Guys, I'm sorry my reading sucks, but as I read, I'll get more better. And thank you for 30 subscribers. I'll let you guys know when the next milestone is. And when we hit that, you get chapter 2. Buenas noches.